Imagine a hidden world within your mind, a complex landscape where light and shadow coexist, where the parts of yourself you rarely see quietly shape your thoughts, emotions, and actions. What if the mysteries behind why you behave the way you do are not just random or purely conscious choices, but deeply rooted in an ancient, unconscious dialogue? Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in psychology, uncovered this secret language of the human psyche. His forgotten writings reveal that understanding ourselves means diving into the depths of the unconscious, embracing the hidden parts we often fear, and embarking on a journey toward wholeness. Today, we unravel the powerful insights Jung left behind, insights that can transform how you see yourself, your relationships, and the world around you. This is not just theory, it's a roadmap to unlocking the true forces driving human behavior. Have you ever wondered why you act a certain way, or why certain emotions rise up without warning? Why you might sabotage yourself or feel drawn to particular people or patterns? These questions sit at the very heart of human behavior. And decades ago, a Swiss psychiatrist named Carl Jung dared to explore them in ways that were both radical and revolutionary. While his work is often overshadowed by more mainstream psychological theories, Jung's insights dive deeper, beneath the surface of consciousness, into the layers of the unconscious mind that truly shape who we are. Jung didn't just ask what we do, he asked why we do it, and more importantly, what hidden parts of ourselves are influencing our choices without us even realizing it. His writings weren't just academic, they were a guide to understanding the self, relationships, dreams, fears, creativity, and even spirituality. Yet much of this work is still misunderstood, misrepresented, or forgotten in modern psychology. But if we truly want to understand human behavior, not just at the surface level but at its core, then we have to return to Jung. At the center of Jung's philosophy was a belief that we are not just logical creatures. We are shaped by unseen forces, symbols, archetypes, and ancient patterns buried deep in our unconscious. He believed that every individual has a personal unconscious made up of forgotten memories and repressed experiences. But beyond that, he proposed something even more profound: the collective unconscious, a kind of inherited memory shared by all humans, filled with mythic images and ancient wisdom that influence our thoughts and behaviors today. He also challenged the idea that mental health is about fitting into society or being normal. Jung believed that true health comes from becoming whole, by facing all parts of ourselves, including those we'd rather ignore. This process of self-discovery and integration, which he called individuation, is the journey of a lifetime. It requires us to face our fears, explore our inner world, and become conscious of what has been unconscious. According to Jung, only by doing this can we truly understand who we are and why we behave the way we do. Many of Jung's concepts, such as the shadow, the persona, archetypes, and the anima animus, are not just psychological ideas. They are tools to decode our behavior. These ideas help explain why we might act kind in public but harbor resentment in private, or why certain dreams haunt us night after night. They explain why people repeat toxic patterns in relationships, or why they feel lost despite having material success. Jung didn't give easy answers. He gave us mirrors to see ourselves more clearly. In this video, we will dive deep into these theories, exploring each layer of Jung's vision of the psyche, from the masks we wear in society to the darkest corners of our subconscious, from the symbols in our dreams to the inner opposites we all carry. We will uncover how Jung's forgotten writings reveal truths about ourselves that we may have never dared to face. This journey is not just intellectual, it's personal, because understanding human behavior through Jung's lens is not about judging ourselves, but about awakening. It's about recognizing that we are more than what we think we are. We are not just our jobs, our habits, or our past mistakes. We are complex beings with vast inner worlds, shaped by history, mythology, dreams, instincts, and deeply rooted emotional patterns. As we go through this series of ideas, you may find moments of deep resonance, times when something just clicks. That's the power of Jung. His work doesn't just explain human behavior, it speaks directly to the soul. It reminds us that the path to understanding others begins with understanding ourselves. So let's begin this exploration, not just of psychology, but of what it means to be human. Because the secret behind human behavior isn't something out there in a textbook. It's inside you. It's in the parts of yourself you've ignored, the stories you tell yourself, and the dreams that whisper when the world goes quiet. Through Jung's lens, we can finally start to see and understand the hidden forces that guide our lives. Carl Gustav Jung wasn't just a psychologist. He was a pioneer, a deep thinker, and in many ways, a spiritual explorer. Born in Switzerland in 1875, Jung began his career as a medical doctor, but quickly found himself drawn to the mysterious workings of the human mind. Early in his career, he worked closely with Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis, and for a time, they were thought to be an unstoppable duo. Freud saw Jung as his successor, but as Jung's ideas evolved, it became clear he was headed in a very different direction. Freud believed that human behavior was largely driven by repressed sexual desires and early childhood experiences. Jung, however, saw this as too limited. He believed the mind was far more complex and that human behavior couldn't be reduced to biological drives alone. For Jung, our actions were shaped by something deeper, by the symbols we carry, the myths we inherit, and the personal and collective unconscious forces within us. This difference in vision led to a dramatic break between the two thinkers. It wasn't just a personal rift, it was a split in how the world could understand the psyche. After parting ways with Freud, Jung set off on his own path, one that would be filled with radical insights and powerful inner experiences. During this time, Jung entered a period of deep self-exploration, what he later called his confrontation with the unconscious. He recorded dreams, visions, and dialogues with inner figures in a personal book known as the Red Book, a work that wouldn't be published until many years after his death. In the Red Book, Jung documented his inner journey, something few scientists dared to do. He didn't just study the psyche from the outside. He walked into its deepest layers and brought back knowledge. These writings, once hidden, reveal the personal foundation behind many of his later theories. They show us a man who wasn't afraid to face his fears, who believed that the path to truth often runs through chaos, confusion, and even madness. But Jung wasn't just mystical. He was deeply practical too. He saw patients, gave lectures, and wrote extensively. His teachings were applied in therapy, art, literature, religion, and even business. He introduced new concepts that changed how we understand ourselves: the shadow, the persona, the collective unconscious, archetypes, and the process of individuation. Each of these concepts was rooted in his belief that humans are not just rational beings. We are spiritual, symbolic, and psychological at once. Jung's approach was different from many psychologists of his time. While others focused on fixing symptoms or helping people adjust to society, Jung wanted something more. He wanted people to become whole, to know themselves completely, even the parts they were afraid of. He encouraged people to face their darkness, not avoid it, to listen to their dreams, not ignore them, to understand their deeper motivations, rather than simply blame the past. Throughout his life, Jung studied ancient texts, alchemy, astrology, mythology, religion, and Eastern philosophies. Why? because he believed that the human psyche speaks in symbols, and these traditions hold keys to understanding those symbols. He saw patterns across cultures and history that showed a shared human experience. He believed that by studying these, we could unlock powerful insights about our own inner world. Yet, despite his contributions, Jung was often misunderstood. His ideas were too mystical for mainstream science and too scientific for religious thinkers. Some saw him as brilliant, others called him eccentric. But in time, his work gained recognition for its depth, originality, and spiritual richness. Today, Jung is seen as one of the most influential thinkers in psychology, philosophy, and the study of human consciousness. Understanding who Jung was helps us appreciate the depth behind his theories. He wasn't just creating ideas, he was living them. His life was a reflection of his belief that true knowledge comes from within, and that the path to self-awareness is often difficult, but ultimately transformative. So when we talk about Carl Jung's theories of human behavior, we're not just exploring abstract concepts. We're tapping into the life's work of a man who ventured into the unknown, faced his own mind, and returned with insights that still shape the way we understand ourselves today. One of Carl Jung's most powerful and enduring contributions to psychology is his deep exploration of the unconscious mind. To understand human behavior, Jung believed we must go beyond the surface, beyond our thoughts, feelings, and actions that we are aware of, and dive into the vast hidden world beneath. This hidden world is what he called the unconscious, and it plays a far greater role in shaping who we are than most of us realize. According to Jung, the human mind is like an iceberg. The small part above the water is our conscious mind. Everything we are aware of, including our thoughts, decisions, emotions, and everyday awareness. But beneath the surface lies a much larger structure, the unconscious mind. This is where our forgotten memories, suppressed emotions, hidden fears, desires, and psychological patterns live. We may not see them, but they influence our behavior constantly, often in ways we don't understand. But Jung didn't stop at just one unconscious. He divided it into two layers, the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. The personal unconscious contains everything unique to us, experiences we've forgotten or repressed, often because they were too painful, embarrassing, or confusing at the time. For example, you might have childhood memories that still shape how you react to certain situations today, even if you can't consciously remember them. This is why people sometimes repeat the same mistakes or emotional patterns. It's not that they choose to, it's that something in the unconscious is driving them. We may find ourselves reacting strongly to small triggers, avoiding things we fear without knowing why, or projecting our insecurities onto others. Jung believed that these behaviors are often clues that something in the unconscious is asking to be seen, acknowledged, and understood. Then there's the collective unconscious, a truly groundbreaking and mystical idea. Jung proposed that all humans share a deeper layer of the unconscious that is not personal but universal. This collective unconscious is made up of inherited memories and instinctual patterns that have developed over thousands of years of human evolution. It holds what Jung called archetypes, universal symbols and themes that appear in myths, dreams, religions, and stories across all cultures. For instance, the hero, the wise old man, the mother figure, or the trickster. These are archetypes that show up again and again in human storytelling because they live in the collective unconscious. Jung believed that these symbolic patterns shape our inner lives and influence how we behave, feel, and relate to others, often without us even realizing it. But why is the unconscious so important to Jung's view of human behavior? Because he believed that much of our suffering, confusion, and self-destructive behavior comes from being disconnected from this deeper part of ourselves. When we ignore the unconscious, it doesn't go away. It acts out in our behavior, in our relationships, and even in our physical health. We may feel anxious without knowing why, or sabotage things that are good for us, or repeat emotional patterns that cause us pain. The key, Jung said, is not to suppress or avoid the unconscious, but to integrate it, to become more aware of what lies beneath the surface of our own minds. This process of integration is not easy. It requires courage, honesty, and self-reflection. It often begins with listening to our dreams, paying attention to our reactions, and asking deeper questions about who we are and what we want. Jung didn't believe the unconscious was something negative or dangerous. In fact, he saw it as a source of creativity, healing, and personal transformation. Inside the unconscious are not only our fears, but also our hidden strengths, forgotten memories, and potential for growth. By exploring the unconscious, we don't just understand our behavior, we discover parts of ourselves that we never knew existed. In many ways, Jung's view of the unconscious mind is a call to go inward, to recognize that the real answers to our behavior, our emotions, and our choices lie not in the outside world, but within us. By shining a light into the darkness of the unconscious, we begin the process of truly knowing ourselves. And through that self-knowledge, we gain the power to change, to grow, and to live more meaningful, authentic lives. Among Carl Jung's most powerful and transformative ideas is the concept of the shadow. This is not just a psychological term, it's a mirror to the parts of ourselves we deny, suppress, or avoid. The shadow is the hidden self, the version of us that lives in the dark corners of the unconscious. And whether we recognize it or not, it plays a major role in shaping our behavior, our relationships, and our inner struggles. So what exactly is the shadow? According to Jung, the shadow consists of everything we reject about ourselves, traits, impulses, emotions, and desires that don't fit with the image we want to present to the world. From a young age, we're taught what is good and what is bad. We learn to hide traits like anger, jealousy, selfishness, or vulnerability because they're socially unacceptable. But those traits don't disappear. Instead, they sink into the unconscious, forming the shadow. Importantly, the shadow isn't only made up of negative traits. Sometimes it includes positive qualities we were told to suppress, like ambition, confidence, or creativity, especially if those traits made others uncomfortable. In this way, the shadow can also contain potential we've locked away, gifts we haven't yet claimed. Even though we're unaware of our shadow, it doesn't stay silent. It shows up in powerful, often disruptive ways. One common expression of the shadow is projection. This happens when we see in others what we can't accept in ourselves. For example, if we reject our own anger, we might constantly accuse others of being hostile. If we suppress our desire for attention, we might resent those who seek the spotlight. This is why some people seem to push our buttons so easily. They're reflecting our shadow back at us. The emotions they stir up, intense irritation, jealousy, or even admiration, can be signs of unresolved parts of ourselves. Jung believed that by noticing our projections, we can begin to reclaim those lost parts and grow into more complete human beings. The shadow also plays a big role in destructive behaviors. When the shadow is ignored, it can erupt in moments of rage, addiction, sabotage, or emotional outbursts. This is why someone might suddenly snap, act out of character, or ruin something important to them. These aren't random moments. They're the shadow breaking through the surface, demanding to be seen. So how do we work with the shadow? Jung emphasized that we must face it, not judge it, not run from it, but confront it with honesty and curiosity. This is what he called shadow work, and it's one of the most important steps in becoming whole. It begins by observing our reactions, recognizing our patterns, and being willing to see the traits we've denied. This process can be uncomfortable, even painful. No one enjoys discovering they're capable of selfishness, pettiness, or cruelty. But Jung believed that confronting the shadow isn't about shame, it's about integration. The goal isn't to eliminate the shadow, but to understand it, accept it, and learn from it. Only then can we stop being controlled by it. When we do shadow work, we take back our power. We stop blaming others for our problems. We become more grounded, self-aware, and emotionally mature. We also become more compassionate because as we recognize our own flaws, we become less judgmental of others. This is part of what Jung called individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming our true self. The shadow also holds potential. Hidden in the darkness are traits that, once reclaimed, can enrich our lives. For example, someone who suppresses their assertiveness may discover strength and confidence. Someone who hides their sensitivity may reconnect with empathy and creativity. The shadow is not the enemy. It's a part of us that, once embraced, can lead to healing and transformation. In the end, Jung's message is clear. If we want to understand human behavior, we must explore what lies beneath the surface. The shadow may seem frightening, but it's a guide to our wholeness. When we stop fearing the darkness within, we begin to see who we really are, and we open the door to a deeper, more authentic life. In our everyday lives, we play many roles. We act differently at work, with family, around friends, or in public. Sometimes we show confidence, other times politeness or strength, even when we don't feel those things inside. Carl Jung called this outward identity the persona, a concept central to his understanding of human behavior. The word persona originally came from Latin and referred to the mask worn by actors in ancient theater. Jung used this word to describe the psychological mask each of us wears in society. The persona is not fake. It's a necessary part of functioning in the world. It helps us interact with others, meet expectations, and adapt to different social environments. But the danger comes when we mistake the mask for our true self. As we grow up, we're taught what is acceptable and what is not. We learn how to behave to gain approval, love, or respect. Slowly, we develop a persona that fits into our culture, family, school, and workplace. For example, someone may develop a strong persona, hiding their vulnerability to be taken seriously. Another may develop a friendly persona to avoid conflict. Over time, this mask becomes so habitual that we forget we're wearing it. Jung believed that the persona is a kind of compromise between our true self and the demands of society. It protects us, but it can also trap us. When we become too identified with the persona, we lose touch with our inner reality. We begin to perform instead of live. Our actions become shaped more by what others expect than by what we truly feel or believe. This can lead to a deep inner conflict. On the outside, everything might seem fine. A person may appear successful, kind, or in control, but inside they might feel empty, disconnected, or confused. This happens because the real self, the thoughts, feelings, desires, and fears hidden behind the persona, is being ignored. We start to sense that something is missing, even if we can't name it. The persona also affects our relationships. If we relate to others only through a mask, we can never be truly known. We hide parts of ourselves and, in turn, fail to see others clearly. Relationships can become shallow, performative, or unstable. People might admire the image we present, but not know the person underneath. Over time, this leads to loneliness and misunderstanding. Jung didn't say we should get rid of the persona. In fact, he believed it was essential for social life. The goal is not to destroy the mask, but to become aware of it. When we know we're wearing a mask, we can choose when and how to use it. We can stop confusing our image with our identity. Part of personal growth is recognizing when we're acting out of habit or fear rather than authenticity. This self-awareness allows us to reclaim the parts of ourselves we've hidden away. It's not easy. Taking off the persona means risking rejection, judgment, or misunderstanding, but it also opens the door to freedom, intimacy, and self-respect. This process is closely linked to Jung's idea of individuation, the journey toward becoming a whole person. Individuation requires peeling back the layers of the persona to discover who we truly are, not just the roles we've learned to play. It means asking, "Who am I?" when no one is watching, and being brave enough to live from that place. Sometimes life itself forces us to confront the limits of our persona. A crisis, a breakdown, a major life change. These moments strip away our usual roles and force us to look inward. Though painful, these experiences can also be awakening. They reveal the gap between our mask and our true self, and they invite us to close that gap. Ultimately, Jung saw the persona as both a survival tool and a spiritual challenge. We need it to belong in society, but we also need to outgrow it to find meaning. When we become conscious of our persona, we gain power over it. We can start to live from our core instead of our cover. We can choose honesty over performance, truth over image. In a world that often rewards appearances, Jung's message is more relevant than ever. Don't lose yourself in the mask. Learn to use it wisely, but never forget who you are beneath it. Carl Jung believed that deep within the unconscious mind, beneath our personal experiences, memories, and fears, live powerful, universal patterns he called archetypes. These are not learned behaviors or cultural beliefs. Instead, they are ancient psychological blueprints inherited by all humans, no matter where or when they were born. Jung believed that archetypes help shape the way we think, feel, dream, and behave, often without us even realizing it. Imagine the human mind as a vast landscape. Your personal thoughts and experiences are like plants growing on the surface, but underneath the soil there's a common root system, one that connects you to every human being across time and culture. This is what Jung called the collective unconscious, and the archetypes are the powerful recurring symbols that grow out of it. So what are these archetypes? They are symbolic images and energies that appear over and over again in stories, dreams, myths, religions, and even movies. They represent key aspects of the human experience, things we all face regardless of who we are. Some of the most important archetypes include the hero, the part of us that wants to overcome challenges, grow stronger, and fight for what is right. The shadow, our darker side, representing repressed desires and the parts of ourselves we try to hide. The anima, animus, the feminine side within men, anima, and the masculine side within women, animus, representing our inner balance. The wise old man, woman, the inner guide, symbolizing wisdom, knowledge, and insight. The trickster, a figure who creates chaos or confusion, but often brings about transformation through disruption. The mother, the nurturing, protective figure, sometimes comforting, sometimes overbearing. The child, a symbol of innocence, potential, and new beginnings. These archetypes aren't just ideas. They live in our unconscious and influence how we act. For example, if someone constantly tries to save others, they may be unconsciously acting out the hero archetype. If a person is drawn to rebellion and breaking rules, the trickster might be at work. We don't always know why we behave a certain way, but archetypes offer a deeper explanation. You can also see archetypes in the stories we love. From ancient myths like Hercules or Athena, to modern characters like Harry Potter, Yoda, or the Joker, these figures all represent timeless archetypal energies. That's why stories and films can feel so powerful. They speak to something ancient within us. They mirror our inner world, helping us see our struggles, strengths, and desires. Jung believed that understanding archetypes is key to understanding ourselves. They show us that we are not just individuals shaped by personal experiences. We are also shaped by a deeper collective human experience. And when we become aware of which archetypes are active in us, we can start to make more conscious choices. For example, if someone is stuck in the victim archetype, always feeling helpless or wronged, recognizing this can help them shift toward a more empowered role, like the warrior or creator. Archetypes also show up in our dreams. Dreams often use symbolic language, and Jung believed that many dream figures are archetypes trying to communicate with us. If you dream of a mysterious guide, a dangerous enemy, or a lost child, you may be encountering an archetype. These dreams are not random. They offer insight into your inner journey and emotional growth. Importantly, Jung emphasized that archetypes are not fixed roles. We are not just one archetype. We carry many within us. Throughout our lives, different archetypes may become more or less active. We might start out as the explorer, grow into the lover, and eventually become the sage. The goal is to recognize and balance these energies so we can grow into our full potential. Understanding archetypes also helps us develop empathy. When we realize that all humans share these inner patterns, we stop seeing others as strangers. We recognize that everyone is living out their own version of the universal story, struggling, learning, failing, and transforming. It creates a sense of unity beneath our differences. In the end, Jung's concept of archetypes reveals something beautiful and profound. We are not alone in our experiences. Deep within us are the same symbols, struggles, and stories that have guided humanity for centuries. By becoming aware of these archetypes, we can better understand ourselves, connect with others, and find meaning in the patterns of our own lives. One of Carl Jung's most unique and thought-provoking ideas about human behavior is the concept of anima and animus. These are two powerful archetypes that live within every person, regardless of gender, and they represent the unconscious feminine side in men, anima, and the unconscious masculine side in women, animus. Jung believed that these inner opposites deeply influence our emotions, relationships, creativity, and personal growth. To understand this, we have to begin with Jung's idea that every human being contains both masculine and feminine psychological qualities. This isn't about physical traits or social roles. It's about inner energies and emotional tendencies that are part of being human. The problem, according to Jung, is that society often pressures us to suppress one side of ourselves to fit gender expectations. But that repression doesn't make those qualities disappear. It simply pushes them into the unconscious, where they continue to influence us without our awareness. The anima is the inner feminine side of a man. It includes qualities like sensitivity, emotion, intuition, empathy, vulnerability, and connection to nature or beauty. When a man denies these qualities, as society often encourages, he may become emotionally distant, overly rational, or disconnected from his feelings. The anima then lives in the unconscious and shows up in dreams, fantasies, or projections onto women. For example, a man might become obsessed with an idealized woman, not seeing her as she truly is, but as a reflection of his own unrecognized anima. This projection can lead to unrealistic expectations, disappointment, or intense emotional reactions. Jung believed that to grow psychologically, a man must learn to recognize, accept, and integrate his anima. This doesn't mean becoming feminine, it means becoming whole. The animus is the inner masculine side of a woman. It includes qualities like logic, assertiveness, strength, independence, and drive. If a woman suppresses these qualities to conform to traditional feminine roles, she might struggle with self-doubt, indecisiveness, or dependence. The animus, like the anima, then lives in the unconscious and often appears in dreams or is projected onto men. A woman might, for instance, be attracted to strong, opinionated men who seem to complete her. Or she might have inner conversations with a harsh inner critic. This can be a negative form of the animus. As with the anima, Jung believed that women must face and integrate their animus to become more complete. When balanced, the animus empowers a woman to think clearly, act decisively, and live with inner strength. Jung didn't see anima and animus as male or female in a biological sense. Instead, he saw them as universal aspects of the psyche. The anima connects us to the world of feelings, imagination, and the soul. The animus connects us to ideas, logic, and action. Both are needed. When one dominates or is ignored, our inner world becomes unbalanced, and our behavior reflects that imbalance. For Jung, the integration of anima and animus is a critical step in the process of individuation, becoming your true, whole self. It means bringing together the rational and the emotional, the active and the receptive, the tough and the tender. This integration allows for deeper relationships, clearer self-understanding, and a richer inner life. This inner work also improves how we relate to others. When we project our inner opposites onto people, especially romantic partners, we often expect them to complete something in us, but this can lead to disappointment, dependency, or unhealthy relationships. Jung's solution was to stop seeking wholeness outside and start developing it within. When we integrate our anima or animus, we stop looking for someone to save or complete us, and we begin to relate from a place of strength, balance, and authenticity. You can begin this integration by paying attention to your dreams, your emotional responses to others, and your creative impulses. Are there parts of you you've ignored or judged? Are there qualities you admire or fear in others that might actually reflect something within yourself? These are clues pointing toward your inner anima or animus. Jung's vision was not about changing who we are. It was about expanding who we are. He believed that every human being has both light and shadow, masculine and feminine, reason and emotion. Embracing both sides doesn't make us less, it makes us more. By recognizing and integrating the anima and animus within, we move one step closer to becoming whole, conscious, and truly free. Carl Jung placed immense importance on dreams, calling them the direct expressions of the unconscious mind. He believed that dreams are not meaningless or random, but a unique language through which the unconscious speaks to us. For Jung, understanding our dreams is one of the most powerful tools for understanding human behavior and achieving personal growth. In everyday life, we tend to focus on the conscious mind, our thoughts, plans, and decisions. But beneath the surface lies the unconscious, a vast part of the psyche that holds forgotten memories, suppressed desires, unresolved fears, and deeper truths about who we are. Dreams, Jung believed, are the bridge between these two worlds. When we sleep, the barriers of the conscious mind relax, allowing the unconscious to communicate in symbols, images, and stories. Unlike our waking thoughts, dreams don't use direct language. They speak in symbols, images that have layered meanings. A house in a dream might represent your inner world. A storm could symbolize emotional conflict. A stranger might reflect an unknown part of yourself. Jung explained that to truly understand a dream, we must learn to interpret its symbols, not literally, but psychologically. One key idea in Jung's theory is that every part of a dream represents a part of the dreamer. If you dream of being chased, the pursuer might symbolize a part of yourself you are avoiding, like fear, guilt, or repressed anger. If you dream of flying, it could reflect a desire for freedom or transcendence. Jung encouraged people to ask, What part of me does this dream figure represent? Rather than treating the dream like a puzzle to solve. Jung also believed that archetypes often appear in dreams. You might dream of a wise old man, a nurturing mother, a hero on a quest, or a dark, shadowy figure. These are not just random characters. They are expressions of powerful universal forces within you. By identifying and understanding these archetypes, you can gain insight into what's happening deep inside your psyche. Another fascinating idea in Jung's dream theory is the concept of compensation. Dreams often show us what's missing in our waking life. For example, if someone is overly rational and emotionally closed off, they might have dreams filled with intense emotion or symbols of vulnerability. The unconscious is trying to restore balance by bringing forward what the conscious mind ignores. Dreams also reveal our shadow, the parts of ourselves we suppress or deny. Nightmares often arise when we resist looking at painful truths. While scary or disturbing, these dreams are valuable. They alert us to inner conflicts we need to face. Jung saw nightmares not as threats, but as urgent messages from the unconscious, urging us to wake up not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Importantly, Jung emphasized that dream interpretation must be personal. A snake in one person's dream might symbolize transformation and healing, while for another it might represent fear or betrayal. That's why he rejected fixed dream dictionaries. Instead, he encouraged people to explore their own associations, feelings, and life context when interpreting a dream. He also believed that tracking dreams over time can reveal patterns and growth. A recurring dream might point to an unresolved issue. A change in dream content might reflect inner development. Keeping a dream journal, Jung suggested, can help us build a relationship with the unconscious, turning it from a mystery into a guide. Jung didn't see dreams as isolated events. He believed they are part of the larger journey of individuation, the process of becoming your true self. Dreams help us uncover hidden parts, heal emotional wounds, and reconnect with our inner wisdom. They don't give us direct answers, but they open questions, deep, powerful questions that push us toward greater self-awareness. Ultimately, Jung taught that our dreams are gifts. They come from the deepest parts of us and carry insights that no one else can provide. When we learn to listen to our dreams, we begin to understand ourselves in a richer, more honest way. We stop running from the unknown and begin to embrace it. In doing so, we unlock not just the meaning of our dreams, but the meaning of our lives. One of Carl Jung's most profound and challenging concepts is the shadow. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves that we reject, deny, or hide, qualities we consider negative, undesirable, or socially unacceptable. These can include anger, jealousy, greed, selfishness, fears, or even talents and desires we are afraid to express. The shadow is not just bad aspects of personality, but any part of ourselves that we are unaware of or unwilling to acknowledge. Jung described the shadow as the unconscious side of the personality. Since we tend to present a certain image to the world, our persona, we push everything that doesn't fit that image into the shadow. For example, someone who sees themselves as kind and generous might suppress feelings of resentment or selfishness. Someone who prides themselves on being calm and rational might deny their capacity for rage or impulsiveness. Because these rejected parts are unconscious, the shadow often influences our behavior without us realizing it. It can show up in surprising ways, through sudden outbursts, self-sabotage, recurring mistakes, or projections onto others. Projection is a key idea. When we see in others the traits we refuse to accept in ourselves. For instance, a person who denies their own envy might accuse others of being jealous or competitive. The shadow is uncomfortable because it forces us to face parts of ourselves we don't want to see. But Jung believed that confronting the shadow is essential for personal growth and wholeness. Ignoring or denying it leads to inner conflict, emotional repression, and often destructive behavior. The shadow holds energy and power that can either control us unconsciously or be consciously integrated and transformed. Integration of the shadow means recognizing, accepting, and owning these hidden parts. It doesn't mean acting on every impulse without control, but rather acknowledging that these qualities exist within us, learning from them, and finding healthy ways to express or balance them. For example, recognizing anger can help set boundaries instead of bottling up resentment. Accepting vulnerability can lead to greater emotional connection instead of isolation. Jung saw the shadow not only as dark, but also as a source of creativity, vitality, and authenticity. By bringing the shadow into consciousness, we unlock hidden potential and become more genuine. Instead of living fragmented lives, where parts of us are denied, we move toward integration and inner harmony. This process is often uncomfortable and requires courage because it challenges our self-image and social conditioning. It involves deep self-reflection, honesty, and sometimes the help of therapy or supportive relationships. Dreams often reveal shadow content through disturbing or surprising symbols, inviting us to pay attention. Jung believed that societies as well as individuals have shadows. Cultural prejudices, collective fears, and denied histories are examples of a social shadow. Understanding this helps explain why groups project fears onto outsiders or scapegoats. Recognizing the collective shadow encourages empathy and social healing. Ultimately, Jung's message about the shadow is hopeful. The parts of ourselves we fear or hate are not our enemies. They are pieces of the whole self that need recognition and love. By embracing the shadow, we become more complete, free, and true. It's the secret path from fragmentation to wholeness, from fear to courage, from illusion to truth. In learning to embrace our shadow, we unlock a deeper understanding of human behavior, not only in ourselves, but in others. We stop blaming or judging and start seeing complexity and humanity. We realize that the dark side exists in everyone, and that true strength comes from embracing all parts of who we are. Carl Jung's concept of individuation is one of his most important contributions to understanding human behavior and personal development. Individuation is the lifelong psychological process through which a person becomes their true self, whole, balanced, and fully conscious. It is the journey of integrating all parts of the personality, including the conscious and unconscious, the light and shadow, the masculine and feminine, to achieve inner harmony. Jung saw individuation as the ultimate goal of human life, rather than simply adapting to society or living by external expectations. Individuation is about discovering who you really are beneath the surface. It is about moving beyond limited identities and unconscious patterns to awaken your full potential and authenticity. The process begins with becoming aware of the persona, the mask or social role you wear to fit in or please others. While necessary for everyday life, the persona can also hide your true self. Individuation involves peeling away this mask to explore what lies underneath, including the unconscious parts of your psyche. Central to individuation is the integration of the shadow. As you begin to recognize and accept the hidden, rejected parts of yourself, you gain power and freedom. Instead of being controlled by unconscious forces, you bring them into consciousness, transforming fear and resistance into understanding and acceptance. Another key aspect is the balance of the anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine energies within each person. Individuation involves harmonizing these opposites, so that you can express a fuller range of emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. This balance allows for a more flexible and authentic way of being in the world. Individuation is not a quick or easy process. It often involves confronting uncomfortable truths, facing fears, and breaking free from old habits or beliefs. It requires deep self-reflection, honesty, and sometimes the guidance of therapy or mentoring. But Jung believed this journey is essential for psychological health and spiritual growth. Throughout individuation, dreams and archetypes play a crucial role. Dreams reveal unconscious material, guiding you to areas that need attention or healing. Archetypes provide symbolic frameworks to understand your experiences and inner changes. For example, you might experience a hero's journey motif in your life, symbolizing challenges and transformation. Individuation also transforms how you relate to others. As you become more whole and self-aware, you stop projecting your inner conflicts onto others. Your relationships become more genuine, based on mutual respect and understanding rather than neediness or control. Importantly, individuation is not about becoming perfect or detached from the world. It is about embracing your humanity, flaws, strengths, contradictions, and all, and living with integrity. It leads to greater creativity, resilience, compassion, and a sense of meaning. Jung believed that individuation connects us to something greater than ourselves. By integrating the unconscious, we tap into the collective unconscious and the universal wisdom carried by archetypes. This deepens our connection to life, nature, and the mysteries of existence. In summary, individuation is the journey of self-discovery and self-acceptance that leads to psychological wholeness. It invites us to awaken from unconscious patterns, embrace all parts of ourselves, and live authentically. Through this journey, we not only transform our own lives, but also contribute more fully to the world around us. Jung's vision of individuation offers hope and guidance for anyone seeking to understand the secret behind human behavior, not as fixed or limited, but as a dynamic, evolving path toward becoming our true selves. Carl Jung believed that human behavior is deeply influenced by the need to balance opposing forces within the psyche. These opposites exist everywhere: light and dark, conscious and unconscious, masculine and feminine, reason and emotion, order and chaos. For Jung, psychological health and true self-understanding come from recognizing, accepting, and harmonizing these inner contradictions. The psyche, according to Jung, is like a living system constantly seeking equilibrium. When one side dominates or is repressed, conflict arises. For example, if someone suppresses their emotions to appear rational, they may experience inner tension, anxiety, or sudden emotional outbursts. If someone ignores their logical mind in favor of impulses, they might act recklessly or lose control. This imbalance often explains confusing or self-defeating behavior. Jung's idea of psychological polarity shows that every quality has an opposite, and both are essential. Just as day cannot exist without night, joy without sorrow, or courage without fear, the mind needs its opposites to function fully. The key is not to eliminate one side, but to integrate both, allowing them to work together in harmony. This principle applies to many areas of life. For example, the conscious mind is associated with awareness, control, and rationality. The unconscious contains hidden feelings, instincts, and archetypes. Neither is bad or good. Both are vital parts of the whole self. When the unconscious is ignored, we lose touch with creativity, intuition, and deeper wisdom. When the conscious mind is overwhelmed by unconscious forces, we may become confused or disturbed. The balancing act also includes the interplay of masculine and feminine energies within each person, as explained through the anima and animus archetypes. True psychological maturity comes from blending strength and sensitivity, logic and intuition, independence and connectedness. Jung believed that this inner harmony is not static but a dynamic process. Life constantly presents challenges that test our balance. Sometimes we swing too far in one direction and must adjust. The goal is a flexible equilibrium that allows us to respond to life's changes with resilience and authenticity. The process of finding balance is also closely connected to individuation, where opposing parts of the self are brought together in unity. This doesn't mean erasing differences, but allowing tension between opposites to generate growth and creativity. The psyche becomes like a dance where different energies interact, creating a richer, more complex self. Jung used symbols to explain this balance, such as the mandala, a circular figure representing wholeness and unity. The mandala illustrates how opposites can come together to form a harmonious whole. Many people naturally draw mandalas in art or meditation, unconsciously seeking that sense of inner order. Understanding this need for balance helps explain much of human behavior. When people act out in extreme ways, they are often trying, consciously or unconsciously, to restore balance. For example, someone who represses anger might suddenly explode, or someone overly controlling may struggle to let go. These behaviors are signals that the psyche is out of harmony and is calling for integration. By learning to recognize and accept our inner opposites, we gain freedom from inner conflict and confusion. We develop a more compassionate attitude toward ourselves and others, understanding that everyone struggles with these tensions. This awareness reduces judgment and fosters connection. Ultimately, Jung's vision of the psyche's balance invites us to embrace life's complexity and paradoxes. It encourages us to move beyond simplistic views of good and bad, right and wrong, to a deeper understanding that true wholeness arises from the interplay of opposites. When we achieve this harmony, we unlock the secret behind human behavior, the continuous dynamic dance within ourselves toward balance, growth, and authenticity.